So I've been thinking, and with everything that has been going on in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, and within specifically the Shibuya arc itself in the manga, it has me wondering, with such an amazing arc that is now wrapping up, and with a new one forthcoming, what are we as the readers of Jujutsu Kaisen supposed to expect within the near future? Well, to be honest with you, throughout the entirety of this arc, my thoughts on the future of this series have dramatically changed. And with someone like myself, it's really hard for me to determine the future of a series, especially when after each and every single chapter, something new is brought into the equation. And when I think back on it, I had found myself reading Jujutsu Kaisen at first as just this generic battle shonen and really not that much to it. I thought that Jujutsu Kaisen was really just like another Bleach in a way, where the plot wasn't necessarily bad, but just wasn't the strongest as other series in Weekly Shonen Jump. And to some degree, towards the beginning of this series, I genuinely thought that. But it wasn't until things like domain expansions and the lore behind a character's backstory was when I realized pretty early on that this anime and manga is something special within of itself. And to a certain extent, especially currently in the manga, it's quite difficult to see where this series could really be heading towards. Now, I think that with all things considered, we might as well at least give it a try and throw out some predictions on at least where I think the series of Jujutsu Kaisen could be leading in, and maybe unlock the path in connection with the future of Jujutsu Kaisen. So I guess it'd only be natural to assume that as of this recent chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen being chapter 136, that this was either the very last chapter of this arc according to some sources, or it's coming to a close within the next few chapters. Regardless, the Shibuya arc is wrapping up and it's coming to a close in a sign of a loss for the Jujutsu sorcerers. And partly, I thought that with the appearance of Yuki, one of the 4 special grade Jujutsu sorcerers, which I believe she was first seen during a flashback in the Goodwill arc, but her first actual appearance was during the Star Plasma Vessel arc, also known as Gojo's past arc, on chapter 76. And it just got me wondering just why at the very end of this arc and at the very end of the battle is she showing up all of a sudden. It's really uncertain to me as of right now, but Yuki, I believe, is just set as this wild card for this period, where in this series she's going to be playing this big role, but as of this moment I think she was just set there to step in and save everyone. And not only that, but in her time of being on the scene, she has already opened up so many possibilities within the world of Jujutsu Kaisen from the very little information she provided about the world, but clearly it was enough to set up a longevity for the series. But what genuinely had me intrigued the most is that not only has Gojo been sealed for a large majority of this arc, but it's looking like within the next chapter or so, this will be where the fate of Satoru Gojo stands. By that, I mean this is where Gojo will continue to be sealed, or this will be the moment we finally see the unseal of Satoru Gojo. So with those two options, it pretty much just leads to 2 possibilities that I have in mind. One being that if Gojo is released from the seal, then this can lead us into some sort of execution arc for Yuji that will most likely get interrupted some way or another. And 2, if Gojo doesn't manage to break free or get released from the seal, then I think this would be a perfect setup for a retrieval arc, where I think Yuji and the others are sent to retrieve and bring back Gojo from the prison realm. So to some certain extent, it's just what I think is the most likely option. Of course, I could be wrong on both the chords, it's just what I think is most likely to happen. But on the other end, we were just open up to multiple possibilities involving the entire world of Jujutsu Kaisen. Currently, Mei is in Malaysia and Yuta has been traveling the world, but the only known place he was in was Africa. And if I'm being honest with you guys, for a little while I thought he was in America, but I don't know, I couldn't find any sources, but I could have sworn at least somewhere in the manga it was written that he was at least once in America, but I don't know, I might just be crazy, you guys let me know. And recently it was just mentioned that this certain superpower on cursed energy, the only really virtues in Japan, is something that highlighted between these 2 specific territories, America and the Middle East, and that they won't simply remain silent with this kind of power, which kind of leads me to this next heading. So what's with this sudden travels around the world? Well, if you ask me, it's still unclear, but I think it would be safe to assume that they're out and about scouting or at least spying on other countries, as well as it is to find out more about the world's cursed energy. And as for our main character, it's really hard to think about just how much Yuji will continue to grow, especially since within this arc, it's definitely been the most heartfelt, most tragic arc for him yet. And his character overall has grown on multiple different occasions, and not only just Yuji, but the rest of the cast as well. I can only really imagine what it's going to be like for everyone else after this arc moving forward. People like Chozo, Kusakabe, Panda, everyone from the Kyoto prefecture, and even Nobara and Fushiguro. It's characters like them that also have gone through it throughout this entire arc as well, on so many different levels. I honestly wouldn't even be surprised if we were hit with a time skip sooner or later, just so our characters can recuperate from this arc alone. Which kind of brings me to my next point. Are we as the readers of Jujutsu Kaisen reaching an ending point, or at least are we reaching the final saga of this series? series? Well, if you really ask me, no. I honestly don't think we're anywhere close to the ending, at least I hope we're not. I think Akutami has set up an amazing path for the series in the future that can touch upon on so many things, including the world building and so many different possibilities on character introduction, and so much more, to be honest. And honestly, the world of Jujutsu Kaisen hasn't even been anywhere close to traveling yet, so I think we as the readers are just gonna have to wait and see, because it's definitely not over, and I think we have a lot more in store for us when it comes to the world and plot of the story of Jujutsu Kaisen, which, to be honest, is an amazing thing. And I think that with everything taken into account with this manga, it can be valued as one of the greatest shonen pieces of our modern day. And something that I couldn't just leave out of this video, which will contain spoilers for the next chapter of Jujutsu Kaisen that isn't even out yet, so you can skip to the time on screen now if you don't want to get spoiled. But I just heard from certain sources over on Twitter that Yuta, one of the 4 special grade sorcerers, also one of my favorite characters in the series overall, is making his grand return, and I didn't want to go back and cut everything from earlier. So on this point moving forward, I guess I can just give my thoughts on it because it's quite confusing actually. So from what I've seen over on Twitter, Yuta's return isn't really what we as the readers were expecting. It's more so kind of worrying in a way, and I've tried really thinking about the possibilities with the information we have, but nothing really comes to mind, other than maybe Yuta is being forced by the higher ups to attack or try something sneaky on Yuji. But it's really hard for me to formulate a really good opinion on the matter, but from what we know, the comeback isn't what we expected. And on the other hand, it would be really interesting to see some kind of like one-on-one versus like the main characters from both the prequel and the actual series. And if I really think about it, I can picture this battle in some sort of resort to the actual battle of Yuji unlocking his domain expansion and maybe crossing eyes with Yuta in later regards to mutual respect between the two. I don't know, but I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see to find out. But with everything from the plot to the characters to the natural effect of cursed energy as a whole, this series does everything in a way where it can really bring some light on our modern issues of Shonen Jump. From what we've seen in recent times, from the anime and the manga of Jujutsu Kaisen, sooner or later all the dots are gonna line up in the light of the future of Jujutsu Kaisen. As always, everyone, that's all I have for you today. Let me know what you guys thought about the video in the comment section below, and if you want to leave a comment suggesting an idea for a video, be more than happy to do so. I love reading the comments, and maybe if you post an interesting topic, I'll choose yours and make a video on it. And guys, if you did enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Also, forgot to mention, but there's a link to my Discord in the description box down below if any of you would like to join. With that, everyone, my Twitter is @AnimeAugie, and I'll make sure to catch each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Peace.